here's another perspective when it comes to redistribution of resources. Though I can understand why someone would have an issue with a corporation going in and draining aquifers or finding water and distributing it. But here's the thing. We have people all over the planet. And some people live in very dry, arid climates. Other people live in very wet climates. And so if we're going to live all symbiotically together, well, somebody, like I say in Africa, they need water from some places, say Florida, or some mountain range in another continent. Well, if somebody has the infrastructure and the organization to go get water from Florida, okay, and of course, Florida is also going to make sure that their water is being distributed to their people, but they have enough extra to then go and help out Africa or take parts of water in Africa and bring it to the people that need it. That's going to save the person that needs the water, that doesn't have water, from trying to walk hundreds of miles a day, make it easy for them to have access to resources, and then there's an infrastructure built up around this. Like, I don't see a problem with like Nestle going and, I don't say draining it, because either way, all of us that live in civilization will get access to a water source. And so all it is just redistributing the Earth's resources and bringing it where it's needed. Why would we want to have a population like Africa or some other population that's very, very dry die of thirst because we don't want to disturb the natural resources in some other place? I don't understand that mentality. Maybe that environment that has the aquifers doesn't have a real good infrastructure for people to live around. And so, it's like, what's wrong with taking, and I know people say, oh, because you might, ruin the environment. Well, I don't necessarily think there's ways of which you can tap into resources without completely destroying it. But sometimes it just happens. It's just an upset of homeostasis. But see, here's the thing, Ed. I hear where you're coming from. I don't mind having this discussion. So he says, I have an issue with the creepy guy who is the Nestle CEO who says access to drinking water is not a human right. Well, we don't know if he said that or not. Remember, that's propaganda. You didn't hear it from him. And if you did hear it from him, how do you know it's like, I don't really, unless you actually heard from him from his mouth and not through some recording or through some video or through some article, but you actually heard it from him, then, here's the thing. It takes money to go and make sure that the human population is able to survive on this earth. Unless you live next to a resource, but even then if you live next to a resource, you need to make sure that you have certain protocols in check so that way you're not taking in pathogens because you have a weak body. Okay? Off-grid living is great in theory, but then humans and animals, when they congregate in an area, they leave human waste, they leave garbage. You need to have infrastructure to take care of any waste material, to make sure that the people who are getting the water, it's clean water for the most part. Okay? And yeah, it's going to take money when you go and redistribute resources from different places to bring it to populations that need it. It takes money to go in and pump it out. It takes money to then fly it, to bottle it. And really the bottled water is just pretty much tap water. And they put their chemicals in there or elements to make sure that the pathogens are being killed off. And then I get water pumped into my house because we have a water department that makes sure that we get access to water, and we pay for it because that's somebody else's energy that's going and managing that water infrastructure, the utilities, to make sure that the overall infrastructure that you live in is well balanced so you don't live in death and chaos. See, this is where the emotions override the logic, and then you start then demonizing corporations. If you didn't have the corporations, you wouldn't have all the modern conveniences. And then all of these things like propaganda, is like what you said he said, who knows that he actually said it or not? Can you substantiate 100% that he said that water isn't a human right? Come on. That doesn't even make sense. Okay? So we have to look at these things logically, because not everyone's going to live around a beautiful water source. Not everything, not all. So when you look at trees that are dying, are you going to make an automatic assumption that it's because, we're destroying our planet, or maybe the planet's going through cycles? And yes, life and death happens in nature. And sometimes some trees need to die, so new trees can, come up. So, the activism and the assumptions and the demonizing of corporations does come from imbalances, because we don't truly understand, or when I was making these assumptions and demonizing either biotech or CEOs or corporations, I came from a point of ignorance, because I was reacting to my own imbalances, my own out of control emotions, and not really truly wanting to figure out how the world truly works. Okay? Because there are, like in Africa, they do have, and I'm not saying that companies don't exploit, if some of them do, but water is something that we all need. And not all the water resources are right next to us. So there has to be somebody who's willing to go in and retrieve the water and then pipe it into the areas that need it. I mean, just like in Southern California, they pump it from Northern California. Okay? I mean, that's just because that's how it works. I mean, that's how, with the amount of people, 7 billion people, we have to figure out how to utilize resources. And then we have a huge ocean that we can desalinate and create fresh water. We can distill the dew outside. We can do all that stuff. But there are some new and emerging countries that need to have water piped in, because they're lacking that resource. Okay? I mean, yeah, you can because here's the thing, the earth is going to go through its evolution. We're already seeing it. I mean, I'm already seeing it with just the thing with the Trump stuff, okay? We got some interesting people in office. We're now all connected through Facebook. So now we're seeing that our assumptions about government, about certain things, are not really so. We're realizing there's a lot of propaganda, a lot of hearsay, and we're seeing that people are actually regular people. They're not this inaccessible, like, entity that is untouchable. Everybody that is in any position of power, or just anybody on Facebook who's an influencer, is touchable, not immune to all the conditions. And so we have to kind of put some logic before we put emotion. Okay? So it's just, the other side of it is, it's not a bad thing, Ed Wade. It really isn't. Okay, if it wasn't for Nestle doing that, then maybe there'd be other countries that are starving of water. Okay? Because we do have climate change. There are areas that are very, 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 very dry. And so for them to be able to live in an environment and not overcrowd your immediate area, we can give them resources so they can sustain themselves. And there's enough to go around. But like anything, you don't live on this earth for free. You have to pay in energy. And what is currency? Currency is energy. We don't live where we just, where we don't have to, everybody has to contribute to the resources that they get. That's what's called living. If you were living like in a camp, like in a caveman days, in a cave, somebody would have to go and haul water to the cave. Somebody would have to go and build the bed and build the shelter and go hunt for food and cultivate food. Somebody has to go and do that. But now we have a society where we've able to dub certain people and certain entities to be the one to go and get the resources. So these corporations are like the caveman looking for water, but you have to pay for it. Somebody has to expend their energy. You just expend dollars. But either way, you're expending something. Energy is currency. All right, bye.